Hi, my name is Jordan Dain, and I did my senior thesis project over human trafficking and business insights. So, how human trafficking relates to general business, personal finance, and organizational leadership. So, I'll get started. As businesses grow in the 21st century, human trafficking continues to entangle itself within businesses. Interdisciplinary research attempts to prevent human trafficking, and there are also several theories that have been formulated to try and explain this complex problem. Once businesses begin to discover this, both business executives and government entities need to make ongoing efforts to reduce the risk of human trafficking in order to both protect victims of human trafficking, both past victims and potential victims, and clients who might become unwittingly involved. So I will be talking about three concentrations, in particular: general business, personal finance, and organizational leadership, and how they relate to human trafficking. It is estimated that over 500,000 people are caught up in the human trafficking industry against their will. Businesses, suppliers, and even governments are beginning to take a more cautious approach when it comes to human trafficking. Regulatory policies and procedures are constantly being formulated and put into place to prevent accidents and situations from arising. This research is important because the policies and procedures being put into place could potentially save lives. It is important that constant revisions and efforts are being taken in order to reduce the risk of human trafficking within businesses. Now that businesses are becoming more aware of the potential dangers of human trafficking, they can also take steps to become the solution, as we all can. An interdisciplinary approach should be used in the research of human trafficking because multiple disciplines and viewpoints are needed to address this because it is a complex problem. Also, with it being a complex problem means that it cannot be solved, which unfortunately doesn't seem that human trafficking can be solved. So, but it definitely can be reduced, which is what I'm talking about today: how to reduce human trafficking using business, personal finance, and organizational leadership. So, as I mentioned before, there are constantly being policies and procedures that businesses are using to implement in their own businesses to prevent or reduce human trafficking internally and externally. So, some of these examples of these steps would be to employ an open door policy that those in need may go talk to someone they trust. So that could be an employee or even a customer that's around them, anyone that's available to help. Additionally, having employees who display characteristics of leadership, such as honesty, integrity, and decision-making qualities, will make the prevention process much easier. Having employees on hand who are trained to handle these high-stress situations will likely prove to be beneficial for those involved. I personally have worked in the retail industry, and I have never had personally an experience with a customer who needed help with human trafficking, but I have worked with many people who have. So, and it's very common nowadays that any job you have, you will probably likely be trained to handle situations such as this, which as it should be. Companies are encouraged to consider adopting and implementing these policies and regulations or revisiting existing policies that are compliant with model principles of the ABA Model Business and Supplier Policies on Labor Trafficking and Child Labor. There are 4 model principles that I will talk about. Principle 1 is the business and supplier should prohibit all types of labor trafficking of all ages if it is included in the business's supplier's operations. Principle 2, the business or supplier should conduct frequent risk assessments to monitor the implementation of prohibiting standards and procedures within the organization. Principle 3, the business and/or supplier should ensure that all incoming and current employees are trained and up to date with the policies and procedures and be in constant communication with its suppliers. And last but not least, Principle 4, the business and/or supplier is to devise a remedial plan of action to take effect if current policies and procedures do not completely prohibit labor trafficking and child labor within the organization. Not only is it important to those victims or potential victims involved in human trafficking, as explained by Aronson and Higham, when businesses violate human rights, executives involved can cause wounds that cannot easily be healed by a simple apology or even a new executive team. It is not uncommon for executives to struggle to comply their operations with basic regulations in order to ensure that the human rights of their stakeholders are not undermined. All right, and now I will move on to the personal finance concentration and how it correlates with the complex problem of human trafficking. Unlike victims of trafficking and slavery in the past, the victims of modern-day slavery are exploited in countless industries and are much more profitable. People of all ages, ethnicities, and genders can be victimized by human trafficking, not just women and children. Personal finance is actually one of the top, most financially stable and most financially wealthy businesses in the world, which is why it is so profitable and it's why it is such a complex problem. Money is the source of everything, and it's the source of why victims become victims, why operators of this business continue to operate, because it is so profitable. Okay, so the last concentration I will be going over is organizational leadership. So we've discussed how the topic of human trafficking is complex and difficult to navigate, especially if one is involved in prevention efforts. So the people who are in charge of these preventative efforts will have the uppermost responsibility to make executive decisions regarding what to do with those whom they believe might be caught up in human trafficking and how their employees will handle the situation. The organizational leaders will need to have empathy and understanding of the situation that those may be in order for proactive steps to be taken to prevent further abuse. So I conducted a personal interview with Kelsey Lenartz, who is a recent Texas Tech graduate of the fashion design department and hopeful future business owner. I actually saw her Instagram page, and it just happened that she posted about how her recent line she created with human trafficking in mind. So I asked her a few questions regarding a jacket she designed as a statement piece to protest against human trafficking. And I will go over her answers, and the pictures in the slides are the handmade garments that Kelsey made herself. So, quoting Kelsey, I designed this outfit including the eye jacket in mind to raise awareness about human trafficking. I created it as a unique statement piece for a class I was in and then entered it into the Fashion Group International competition in the spring of 2018. I wanted to spread awareness about human trafficking through my fashion design projects. One day I hope to have my own company where I can sell and market products with purpose and stories behind the inspiration. I also dream of partnering with nonprofits around the world. The shorts represent a barcode because people around the world, even in Texas, are sold for their bodies, and that is not okay. The lace blouse has ties in the back representing that people are tied back from their freedom. The jacket is symbolic of the need to open our eyes and not turn our backs on the issues of human trafficking around the world. There are many theories that correlate with the topic of human trafficking. Researchers create new ones based on their findings, which can sometimes challenge the theory of another researcher. Marinova and Patrick James conducted a theory that legalization of prostitution could possibly have an effect on the number of persons victimized by human trafficking. According to their research, the Netherlands and Germany legalized prostitution respectively in 2000 and 2002, whereas Sweden made prostitution illegal in 1999, as well as implemented criminal penalties for the purchase of illicit sex. With evidence from their research, they concluded that legalization of prostitution led to an increase in human trafficking. Karen Bravo discusses similar theories when she writes about human trafficking being referred to as human rights or law enforcement and/or crimes problems, but believes that an economic and free market theories and principles can create a more comprehensive understanding of human trafficking. Both theories relate to what human trafficking as it truly is, a crime. The consequences of these crimes create a common ground between these two theories as well as many others. The theories differ between conceived beliefs and actions that would one day remove human trafficking completely. This research project has forced me to remodel my way of thinking regarding the complex topic of human trafficking. I only used to think of how victims felt emotionally or physically, but never bothered to dig deeper into the business aspect or economic aspect of this human trafficking. This research process has made me realize how crucial the interdisciplinary research is to complex problems such as human trafficking. One can be very knowledgeable in one area or insight, but this one insight is not likely to be useful in solving every complex problem one can come across. It is important to have depth of knowledge in one discipline, but be open and willing to accept new ideas and information. Research through an interdisciplinary perspective has allowed me to gain far more knowledge and understand human trafficking than I had previously had before. I understand that my disciplines are not the only relevant disciplines necessary to research this issue competently, and it takes several insights to approach this level of complexity. Similar to classroom work, life throws unexpected twists and turns one is not usually prepared for and do not always know how to approach the issue. Similar to interdisciplinary research, one must not forget that life's complex problems require more than just one approach to the issue. Thank you for listening to my oral presentation today. I hope that after listening to this that you have gained a little more insight or knowledge than you had previously on the topic of human trafficking. I know I have.